You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
It's Wild Weekly on the Fan.
Pass it from Kaprizov, Johnson scores!
Now here to talk about the Minnesota Wild and the NHL. From the Wild, Kevin Falness. And from the Fan, Brandon Mileski.
Yeah, good evening. Welcome to KFAN Wild Weekly. I am Brandon Mileski. He is Kevin Falness. Kevin, great to talk to you as always.
The pleasure is yours and mine.
Big one last night. You know, the Washington game Friday night I thought was the worst the Wild have played all season long. You had a chance to win that thing Saturday night in Philadelphia. You had the 1-0 lead. You lose it in the third. You had a Joel Eriksson open net in the overtime that he hits the post on, and you end up losing that game, only getting a point. And then you have the news of Marco Rossi being out. You're already without Matt Zuccarello, Nico Sturm. Last night was, to me, a big-time performance from that team, given what they had just done the previous two games and given the lineup that they had to play with.
Well, and then add to that, they're down 1-0 in New York at Madison Square Garden just a minute into the hockey game. I mean, if that isn't a sign that they're going to throw up that white flag and just move on to the next one, they could have done that, and instead they played probably their best full game for sure, but that first period in particular, I mean, they had more shots on goal in that first period than they did the entire game in Philadelphia and the entire game in Washington. They had 14 in Washington, 16 in Philly. I think they were credited with a total of 16 shots on goal in period one last night. So obviously that was great to see the way. And then they just built upon it. You had even when they did have momentary lapses, Gustafsson was outstanding. I thought the defensive core played well as a full man unit. And everybody chipped in, so it was fun to watch that. It's been a long time coming, and that might have been their first full body of work that we've seen this season.
Yeah, it was frustrating because I think it was at the Washington game where they had like 4 shots on goal halfway through the game.
Oh my God! They had like 2 going into the second period.
And I'm thinking to myself, is this the same team I saw put up 50-some shots against Columbus 6 days ago? Like, what happened to this team that was just all over and pestering Columbus, and just didn't seem to have the juice? On the first two spots, you know, they were a little bit better in Philly than they were in Washington. But last night in the first period, you know, you almost left the first period going, man, how are we only at 1-1 here? That this wasn't going to be sustainable. That maybe they blew it in the first period because they were just all over the Rangers last night in that opening stanza.
Yeah, Shesterkin is a hell of a goaltender, and Gustafsson mentioned that in the post-game show last night. It's fun to go toe-to-toe with one of the best goaltenders on the planet, and that's what Shesterkin is, and that's one of the big reasons why he was able to keep them in that hockey game, because the Wild were just all over the blue shirts, and it was so much fun to watch, and it's been a long time coming. And like I said, when they were down 1-0, not even a minute into that hockey game against a team that hadn't won on home ice, and I know they're better than that record would indicate, but hadn't won on home ice and set an NHL record for 180 minutes of shutout hockey on their home ice that they hadn't scored a goal. And then to get that first one, I thought that would just electrify that fan base. But it didn't happen. It was the Wild that sucked the life out of that building, especially that first period. And to see Jonas Brodin, of all people, his first goal since New Year's Eve 2024, steps into one and ties the thing up. And then to see Urov get the eventual winner, just a cool night all the way around.
Yeah, you mentioned the goaltending for the Wild and Gustafsson. You know, and let's face it, going into last night, Kevin, Gustafsson has not been great. He was great in the opener against St. Louis, but from that point on, you know, he struggled against Columbus, he struggled against Washington, and the first goal last night, you know, he initially could have been able to grab that first shot pretty easily, and it just dropped right out of his glove, and then they, you know, scored, 4 or 5 seconds later on a phenomenal shot from Panarin. But after that goal, I'm going, are we going to have some goaltending issues all season long? And after that point, 1 minute into the game last night, he was fantastic. He had 2 big-time saves on Zibanejad. One was on the power play where it went off his shoulder, and that one where you're securing a 1-goal lead in the third period, and it goes out to Zibanejad point blank right out in front of him, and you go side to side and get that glove on it. Big-time saves there from Gustafsson.
Yeah, it was like the Panarin goal in reverse. Instead of Zibanejad setting up Panarin put it on a platter for Zibanejad in the low slot, and a nice glove save by Philip Gustafsson to keep the Wild in front 2-1. That was huge, and to get Gustafsson back on track, I don't think that 3-game losing streak, I mean, the Wild were in a 3-game losing streak. He, too, had lost 3 in a row and had given up 14 goals. I don't think it was all on him. The team in front of him was a shell of what we saw last night. But to see everybody come together last night, not only the forwards, the defense, but even Philip Gustafsson, 22 saves total, 11 in the second when they maybe took the foot off the pedal just a little bit defensively. The team needed that win in a big way, but so too did Philip Gustafsson. That's a huge boost for him, and to see that goaltending tandem to start to take off, both him and Jesper Wallstedt, I think, have been outstanding through 7 games.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that Wallstedt, he's only played 2 games, so we have a small sample to work off of. I think he's been really good in his 2 games, right? He had the winner in the shootout against the Kings, and I know they blew the lead in that one, but to see the emotion from him after he shut down 4 shooters in the shootout in that one, and then Philadelphia, the goal he gave up there, he should have been able to handle that initial shot, and he kind of scrambled out of the net a little bit. Overall, he was terrific in that game, and, we've kind of thought of Gustafsson as a 1 and Wallstedt as a 2, and I know it's way too early to be taking 2 games out of Wallstedt and extrapolating this out over the course of the season, but if he keeps playing this way, he's going to earn more ice time.
Well, it is a small sample size, but when we think about the horrible season he had last year, and he'll be the first one to admit it, he dealt with injuries, he wasn't good in the American Hockey League, and, his small sample size on the NHL level was hit or miss as well. I think he's been great. Watch it, so not only just in the 2 games that you've seen him in the regular season, if you watched any training camp and even the 2 games that he got in the preseason, he had 2 of their 3 wins in exhibition hockey. So I think the ceiling is extremely high for Jesper Wallstedt, and the future is really bright. What a wonderful thing that would be for Bill Guerin to have 2 really good goaltenders and figure out how to deal with them going forward. Once he establishes himself, much like Philip Gustafsson has.
Well, and frankly, the goaltending is going to need to be good, Kevin, because this team, didn't have a ton of scoring depth to begin with, and then with Zuccarello out, Nico Sturm out, and they went without Rossi last night. They don't have a lot of depth up front that's going to be able to put the puck in the net, and the power play can only be strong for so long. It's dried up a little bit, which it was just a matter of time before that happened. It couldn't go at a 45% clip forever, but this team is a little bit struggling to put the puck in the net, and they're going to need to become a good defensive team.
Yeah, and it's also nice to see the defense chip in. When you get a goal from Jonas Brodin, that's found money. It's not like he can't produce offense. He just typically doesn't. He's your typical stay-at-home defenseman. But to see him chip in and get some offensive production from the blue line, that's a huge bonus.
One more game for the Wild on the road, and then they'll be home for 6 games starting on Saturday against Utah. But tomorrow night, their final game of this 5-game road trip. They're in New Jersey to take on the Devils. That's a 6 o'clock start, 5:45 pregame right here on the Fan. And Tom Reid will be on that call along with Joe O'Donnell. We're going to hear from Tom Reid, analyst for the Wild Radio Network. He joins KFAN Wild Weekly next.
Yurov won the draw. Johansson left side, offensive zone, cut past the check below the goal line, around on a wraparound pitch. Sturkin the save, it's loose. They backhand and score! Danila Yurov, his first NHL goal, and he's given the Wild the lead here at Madison Square Garden with 11:44 to go.
Yeah, Joe O'Donnell, Tom Reid on the call last night on right here on the Fan as the Wild snapped that losing streak, beating the New York Rangers 3-1. I'm Brandon Mileski, Kevin Falness with me as well. And we're now joined by the analyst for the Minnesota Wild Radio Network, Tom Reid. Tom, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate your time. And let's begin with Yurov specifically. He didn't play the first 2 games of the season, has gotten some playing time, gets his first NHL goal last night. How do you feel like Yurov has acclimated himself to the NHL game?
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. That puck was loose, and Johansson really made the great play on the wraparound there. But Yurov looked like a cat going after a bird. I mean, he saw it, he spotted it, he saw the loose puck, went and put it away. And that first goal is always such an important goal, especially for a young guy coming in like that. But I think you're going to like Yurov. He's got a great skill level. We don't know a lot about him. We haven't watched him a great deal. But right now, just watching him, how he's performed at training camp and now with the big team, certainly it bodes well for Minnesota, I think, for the future.
I was looking, Tom, 6 games in. Last night might have been their best all-around game. I know they had the opener, but even in that one, it felt like, even though they shut out the Blues in St. Louis, that second period they had a bit of a lapse. Maybe you could say that about last night as well, but it felt like start to finish, this was the Minnesota Wild team that we signed up for.
Well, that first period was tremendous. I mean, they moved the puck. And the one thing John talked about in the morning, John Hines, the coach, was talking about being quick with the puck, being fast going into the zone, making some good things happen there offensively. And they did exactly that. They did exactly what they had to do. Now, they gave up the first goal, but they came back. They didn't sit back. They just took command of this hockey game. And I thought by far they were the better team last night all the way through. And you look at the shots on net, they outshot them by 8 shots in that stretch. Every line was going, every set of defense was going, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for some combinations where you're not depending on your top line to get all the goals. So they had a goal from the defense with Brodin picking up his first goal of the season, and then on the back end you've got, of course, Urhoff getting his goal we talked about, and Kaprizov finding the open net from way down the ice. And he practices that, guys. He practices that so many times. He'll just stand at the rink and find that open net and put it away. And that was a huge goal for Minnesota.
The two previous games, as you guys just mentioned, at Washington, at Philadelphia, the team really struggled to get shots on goal, not a lot of scoring chances. What do you think went wrong in those two games that they were able to fix last night?
I just don't think all the lines were in sync. They seem to be a little bit off a little bit. And the one thing is, you get in a situation, especially early on in the year, every team has some rust to it. Every team, you're trying to acclimate yourself to new partners on the ice. And, of course, the coaching staff has to make changes trying to get combinations working together. To find two guys working together is great. It's finding that third guy that works for them. But I think right now Minnesota, they feel pretty good about themselves, just the way they have played here. And hopefully they'll be on the rise right now. It was interesting too. By winning it last night, they jumped ahead of a couple of teams also in the standings. And these points at the beginning are so important, guys. Remember last year they were so good at the beginning of the season. And the first 10 games, what did they go 7-2-1, I think, in that stretch, or 7-1-2, whatever it was. But they want to get back to that point also where they're not clawing all the time to get to the top. They hopefully can make that work. But I think this is going to be a pretty good team, and the goaltending's been very good too.
Let's talk about the guy that set up that Urov goal that you were just talking about. Marcus Johansson, much maligned coming into the season. Probably not the favorite player on the Wild team, according to the fans. And if everything was equal, he'd probably be on the third or fourth line. But because of injuries, you're missing 2 of your top 6 guys. He's elevated in the lineup now, back on that second line. And he's played pretty well this season. I mean, let's be honest. I thought he's played pretty well for the most part through 6 games. What have you thought about Marcus Johansson?
Kevin, let's go back to last year because I was critical of him during the most of the year. But you got into the last 15, 18 games, and all he started to pick it up, and they signed to a 1-year deal for about $800,000, which is nothing in today's market for a player. But I thought the latter part of last year he was very good, and I think he's been really good all season long. That was a heck of a play he made with Urhoff getting the goal, but it was Johansson who made the play. He's a gifted skater. He's smooth when he wants to play. I mean, he's hard to contain. But when you look at his game since he started this year, he's been very good for Minnesota. I have not found any faults with him at all. I mean, he's done the job you want him to do, and that's control the puck. He made a nice play there and results in the goal.
We've now seen 7 games of Vladimir Tarasenko after the Wild acquired him in the offseason. What have you seen from Tarasenko so far through 7?
When I watch him, I think he's going to be just fine. It's going to take a while, I think, to adjust so often when you get to a new team like that. But Tarasenko is one of those guys that last year in Detroit didn't have a good year, but the team didn't have a good year either. And mentally, it's really tough when you're not winning, when you're out of the playoffs, and you go, I have to go to the rink again. But all of a sudden now you get to a new team and things are starting to gel for you, and you're feeling good about getting to the rink and being part of the practice sessions or being part of the games. And so I think he's going to be fine. He's a guy that we have seen many times before, Brandon. Certainly with the St. Louis Blues. He's a gifted athlete who can score a lot of points here, and I think playing with the right people, he'll get those points this year.
How about the goaltending, Tom? Philip Gustafsson had one of his best games last night as well, especially that unbelievable save that he had right in the slot in the third period that could have been the difference in the hockey game. It feels like he's playing well, and I guess the biggest question mark coming into this year was Jesper Wallstedt, but it feels like he's answering those questions too.
Well, he is. If you look at Wallstedt, he's got points in both of the games he's played this year with a 2.35 goals against average, and he's been very good. And, they're pushing each other to the competition within the team is very strong, too. We've said this before. If you're in the fourth line, you want to be on the third. If you're on the third, you want to be the second. You want to keep going until you get to the top line. And the same way the defense. I mean, you want to be with someone that makes you look better on the ice, but you want to be able to contribute all the time also and help some of the other guys. But I think our goaltending has been very good this year by both of these guys, and hopefully that will continue. If you don't have goaltending, you're not going to go very far.
How about back on the blue line, rookie Z Bouillon? Obviously, we saw him in the playoffs last year, but playing a much different role, kind of just playing a third defensive pairing, limited minutes. He does seem to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more confident this year. What have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, I think you're right, Brandon. He likes to handle the puck. There's no question about it. Offensively, very good. He's got some work to do defensively, and he'll get to that point. I mean, the staff will work with him and try and help him, get to the point where he feels comfortable defensively. He's not a big guy, but he's not a small guy either. He's got great wheels. He's got great sense of where he is on the ice and where the opposition is on the ice as well. He's a gifted skater, and that's going to go a long way, I think, for Minnesota, especially offensively as he goes down the road here.
Love listening to you analyze Minnesota Wild hockey games, whether it's with Bob Kurtz, whether it's with Joe O'Donnell. But I think your wheelhouse is your memories, and going to New York is a good example because you've been doing it for a long, long time. I'd have to assume this is one of your favorite stops along the circuit, and then to go back to an arena that's this famous, it has to be just a throwback in time every time you walk in that place.
Well, it is, Kevin. In fact, my first NHL game was with the Chicago Blackhawks against the New York Rangers, but it was not in Madison Square Garden. It was in the other building. I don't remember much about the other building. Said it was old. That's one thing I do remember. But I played there in it was 67, 68 season, so I played there in November of 67, and this building opened, the new one, in January of 68. So I played in the old building, and I played in the new building, and it's been fun. In fact, one of the games we played here when I was with the North Stars, we won 4-0 in an afternoon game, and there was a guy who was heckling me quite a bit during the game. And at the end of the game, I went over and had a few choice words for him. As I came off the ice, he came after me, and somebody said, "Look out!" And here's a guy about 6'5", about 290 pounds coming after me. And he jumped at me. He missed me, but he got landed on Caesar. Well, he paid the price for that. I can tell you that, because the rest of the boys came to help me out.
How would you compare and contrast New Jersey in that atmosphere compared to New York? Because they're right across the water from each other. Yet it just, from watching on television, I haven't been to either place live. Watching on television, it just seems like a different atmosphere. How would you compare and contrast those two?
Brandon, you're absolutely right. And I said this on the air last night. When a former player from the Rangers comes into the building and they stand in that tunnel where the Zamboni comes out, everybody in that building knows exactly who that player is. It's amazing, and they cheer him. They clap for him. When Zuccarello was here last year with the team, I mean, the fans every time he got the puck, they were cheering for him. They loved him. They love it. They love their players, their current players, and their former players. New Jersey, not quite the same. It just doesn't have that atmosphere. But when you're playing in the Madison Square Garden, remember the floor, the ice level here is on the 5th floor. You're going up 5 floors to get to the ice. Then you go up another 5 to get to the press box. So it's a long ways up there, but it's an interesting building. They've just spent, in the last few years, they spent over $900 million to remodel this building, and they said it's going to last for about 10 years, and then we're going to build a new building someplace. But I tell you, it's got the nostalgia of this place is terrific. It's great to be a part of it.
Can you imagine life in the Metropolitan Division? For the most part, their road trips are, especially within the division, maybe a short plane ride. Most likely it's a train or a bus ride. Meanwhile, you're back-to-back in the Central is a 4-hour flight to Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing when you talk to the players who have played it both in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, the travel is so much easier. You don't go to your own time zone. And we're constantly out of our time zone, and we're back and forth, going to California or going to New York. You're back and forth, but that is not the case here. The travel is so much easier in the Eastern Conference, and the travel alone can tire out a team in a hurry, especially if you got back-to-back games. I mean, this is a long trip for us. This is 8 days. We've got a 14-dayer coming up at the end of the season. 14, a lot of games, and they're all over the place. So. You know what? It's great to be a part of it. It's hard, but you know what you're going to get going into it. And I think for the most part, the guys really enjoy it. But the travel certainly does play into the effect of the team.
All right, final question for you, Tom. Can you preview the New Jersey Devils? What can we expect tomorrow night from our Wild opponent?
Well, they're playing pretty well right now. When you look at New Jersey, they've played they're looking at 5 games. They've won 4 of the 5 games, so they're scoring goals. They know what they have to do. And also defensively, they've done a nice job. They've scored not a lot more, but I think 19 they scored 4 and 15 against. But the thing is, they're getting points. They're playing very solid as a team. They got some pretty good players on there. I'm just going over the roster right now as we speak, and they've got some guys that certainly have stepped up this year, but Minnesota's got to find a way to combat it, and the way they can do it, just like they did last night. Good first period, get the legs moving, and John Hines was pretty happy with the entire game, but I thought that first period for Minnesota last night was tremendous.
Tom, thanks for your time as always. We'll be listening to you tomorrow night.
All right, guys, thank you.
All right, Tom Reid, analyst for the Minnesota Wild Radio Network. Kevin, you'll be working with him tomorrow night. 6 o'clock puck drops. I know you guys are complaining about the Eastern time zone, but you like those 6 o'clock starts, don't you?
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah, we can't get enough of those, and it'd be the end of a long road trip. I think they feel great about how they played last night in New York, just like Tom said. If they can replicate that tomorrow in New Jersey, it won't be easy. Those Hughes brothers are elite, but it should be fun. We're on the air at 6 o'clock on the Fan. Puck drop about 6:08.
He's Kevin Falness. I'm Brandon Mileski. Thank you for listening to KFAN Wild Weekly. We'll talk to you next week.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.